Hey everyone, welcome again to the BATTASS podcast, the Batman the Animated Series Show podcast, where we talk about Batman the Animated Series. My name is Clay McCormick, and with me, as always, is Sean Murphy. Sean, how you doing?
Hey man, good to hear your voice. I hear you're getting over your cold.
Yeah, getting there. We're gonna, as always, we're gonna talk about 2 episodes of Batman the Animated Series. So let's jump right into it. The Man Who Killed Batman, written by Paul Dini, directed by Bruce Timm. And in this one, when a small-time gang member, Sidney the Squid Debris, played by Matt Frewer, seemingly kills Batman by accident, he gets involved with gangs all over Gotham, as well as the Joker and Rupert Thorne, none of whom believe his story that everything that is happening is by preposterous happenstance. The thing that really stood out to me in this one is this one and the next one. It's like 3 episodes in a row where Batman makes really questionable decisions as far as like strategy goes. Because I thought this one was really good. I like this one a lot. But when you look at it from the Batman standpoint, Batman's just like, I'm going to fake my death, and I'm just going to hang back and possibly let this guy get killed multiple times. Before I figure out it was Rupert Thorne, the only other guy in Gotham it could have been.
I pretty much feel the same way. I've always liked this one. It's a very Paul Dini style script where you take like a regular guy, or even like a loser, and you throw him into Gotham and see what happens.
Yep.
But you're right. I mean, Batman had to be just sort of, as he was tailing Sid the Squid, he had to be ready to pounce at any given time because this guy's life was in danger a handful of times. And Batman seemingly just kind of let him walk into danger just to see how it was going to play out.
Yeah.
Even to the point where he was drowning in acid, and that's when Batman decides.
Yeah, I don't even know how he managed to get him out of there. That brings up a lot of other questions, but I that kind of stuff aside, I like this one a lot. It followed the trend of Paul Dini, I mean, to no surprise really, writing the best Joker episodes. Yeah. Because not actually I had my head down when the credits were going, so I didn't even see that this was written by Paul Dini. And I looked it up after the Joker shows up and he puts his hand out and he's got the little needle sticking out of his hand. Right. I was like, that's more malicious than the Joker usually is from other people. That's actually dangerous. That feels like a Paul Dini thing, and of course it was him.
Brutal. He accidentally has like a needle in his hand. Oh, sorry, force of habit. Yeah. I mean, I think this might be one of the best Joker episodes because you get to see if Batman's out of the picture, you don't see a Joker that's celebratory. You see him skeptical, right? And then you see him upset, and then you see him sad. And then, I mean, it's crazy. And there's really one line in there that when Joker says, "Without Batman, crime has no punchline," and that is absolutely brilliant. That is Joker in one sentence, and that's definitely the line that I think of when I sit down to write Batman or write the Joker at least.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I was thinking that too when it got into that stuff. It very much felt like you and I have talked about the Joker a lot, and it sounds like that is the core of where your approach comes from. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I've always thought that it made sense that Joker saw Batman as a toy, like a plaything. And as much as he thinks he wants to beat Batman and rule Gotham, whatever that means, he really just kind of wants the game to go on. And there's even a line here where Joker he's robbing a jewelry store, and he's like, he should have been here by now. I mean, this is how it works. Like, I run around, I break some crime, Batman shows up, and then we do it all again, or something like that, you know?
Yeah, that scene was really great. I think overall it's probably the best Joker episode they've done, but that scene was really great. I can't remember if that's the same scene as when he says "without Batman." Is it the same scene where he says "without Batman, the joke crime has no punchline"?
I think that one line is at the end of that scene. And
the other thing I loved about that scene is he actively stops Harley from taking a bunch of, very actively, like punches her and sends her flying across the place. Not a relationship to aspire to, people.
Right.
but he stops her from taking stuff, and they just like, I love how they casually walk out of there after he set off the laughing gas thing.
Yeah,
because the Joker is not about getting money. He's about fucking with Batman, and it's about, like you said, it's about the game with him. And I think that stuff was really, really great, and I was really happy to see them get into that stuff.
Right. Yeah. I also love that this episode barely has Batman in it, yet it's more about. I mean, it does really well despite Batman not being in it.
Right.
In that it gives you a chance to see how other characters in Gotham view him. So you see Montoya is really sad. You see Bullock, who's really broken up about it too, which you wouldn't necessarily have thought. Of course, you talked about the Joker. I don't know if you would have. I mean, it's just a nice tour of, like, if Batman was missing, what would everybody really think about him? And you can see how sad everyone actually is, and how connected these characters really are, even if they do butt heads every now and then.
Yeah, and it's even in that, you know, I feel like that could have almost been its own episode, as far as like, oh, everyone thinks Batman's dead, and let's see how everybody reacts. But they, even there, they're only getting into minor characters, like you said, Montoya and Bullock, but you never see Gordon react to this.
Yeah.
You never see, I guess he would
Robin.
be the only, Robin or whoever.
I felt that Gordon was really missing too. If I could add one thing to this episode, I would have just some kind of a brief, thing with Gordon being really sad about it. I mean, the last episode with emo Batman moping about Gordon being dead. I mean, why not just have a little bit here too? You know,
the least they could do is have Gordon pull out that photograph that they have of the two of them when they were on that fishing trip and just stare at it longingly as, you know, something really sad plays behind it.
They're holding up a big, giant, 6-foot-tall Joker fish.
Yeah.
Batman's wearing like a Hawaiian shirt with little bats on it. I don't know.
Sorry, I apologize for the coughing.
One thing I really loved about this, I remember when I first saw this as a kid, I thought, like, what is going on? I legit thought Batman was dead or something really, really bad had happened. And that the fact that the episode spent so much time not even showing him was like really nerve-wracking. And then you get to the end where they're having this funeral, which I thought was perfect. And you have Joker basically throwing Sid the Squid in a coffin and dipping him into acid.
Yeah, man.
Which in a way, like symbolically, the Joker was born in acid. So I think what they were going for was the Joker is now going... Sid will die in acid as a way of like Joker completing the symbolic circle, or sort of bringing it all back to the beginning, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and also, again, to talk about how this is a very intense, scary, and violent version of the Joker. He, for all intents and purposes, he murders that guy. You know, Batman saves him, sure, but like for all intents, he's throws him into acid. And he almost dies, except Batman somehow manages to save him in a way that we don't even know.
If you were Batman, you should probably grab him as the casket is on the conveyor belt heading towards the acid. That would be your best bet. But the fact that they let it go into the acid, it goes under the acid. You see it from underwater now, and now you're inside the casket, Kill Bill style, watching the acid come. I mean, it's like crazy the amount of the length they go to really put you on the edge of your seat there. And the only thing that I think they were missing was Batman pulling a lever that like drains it or like sucks the acid into the sewer or something like that. That he basically gets set out, basically. Yeah,
was he just hanging out outside hiding, and is he watching the Joker and Harley Quinn be like, "Come on, leave, you can't jump out until you're gone. God damn it,
stop hanging around." Joker talks about Chinese. Yes, go get some Chinese.
Oh my God, she pulled out the kazoo. They're going to be here for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, although Harley had a lot of good moments in this too.
Great Harley
episode. The kazoo was really being great.
I do have a question though. When she gets Sid the Squid out of jail, she makes a crack at Bullock about, I think I served you a subpoena once.
Is that a dick joke?
I think it's a dick joke, but it doesn't really make any sense.
Like, I served you a subpoena once. It was a small subpoena.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure how that is supposed to work, and I guess that's why it got bystanders and practices.
Subpoena, like a penis?
Like a sub-penis? Like less than a penis? Man. I don't know.
I also noticed that she used her name, Harleen Quinzel, when she walked in. I just assumed that the police know who that is. I mean...
Yeah, they should. Apparently, this is the first time she used that name, so I think it was probably predates her backstory when they actually worked out her backstory.
Yeah.
It's such a great name.
When they retcon it and show her as a psychologist that went crazy, because, this doesn't make sense if you go with that retcon, basically.
I've always loved that name, though. It's such a great... A great real name to get out of Harley Quinn.
Right. And the payoff is in season 4 when she's trying to distract Joker, and she's like, "Come on, don't you want to ride your Harley? Vroom, vroom, vroom." Which is the way she's kneeling down on the desk in her nightie, because the way her hair is designed, it's almost like, I mean, she's basically referring to anal sex.
I mean, it could just be regular sex. I don't know why it has to be.
I'm pretty sure it's anal. You clearly watched the scene, Clay. There's no way around it. Anal.
You were really looking for anal, and you found it. It's there. You just, have to stare at it. Don't just stare at it. Eat it, Sean.
Jesus.
The thing that I found interesting about this too, we kind of we got on the Riddler episodes as being kind of the same episode twice, and while I don't think this is quite the same copy, this is really kind of similar to the guy accidentally drives the Joker off the road episode.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, which I think is another Paul Dini episode.
Yeah, and it's, it involves my favorite storytelling thing, which is consequences for your actions. And it's very similar. It has not quite the same structure because Joker doesn't really show up until late into the episode, but it's both of them are. I guess the first one isn't really about. Yeah, I guess they're both about biting off more than you can chew, really.
Yeah, for me, the through line is a normal guy gets accidentally sucked into Gotham and these dangerous circumstances with the Joker and Batman. And you have a normal Joe, like in this case, Sid the Squid. Yeah, he was sort of starting out a criminal career, but he was basically kind of a weenie and just, whatever. And then the other guy just accidentally cut Joker off on the road. He was definitely innocent. But yeah, for me, they're both like the everyman gets caught into these crazy circumstances, and the question is how is he going to get out?
Yeah. And I like that in this one, it's a guy who is wants to be a big shot, and he he gets what he's after, but not necessarily not in the way that he thought he was going to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, with the ending when he's in jail and everyone's chanting his name, and he feels like, wait, are they chanting his name?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's in prison, but he's kind of happy and he feels complete now because he's not a nobody anymore, even though he's incarcerated.
The only thing I could think of was this is going to last about 15 minutes until everyone finds out that Batman arrested this guy, and then bad things are going to happen to this man.
Yeah. That guy, I mean, you talk about. Let's dip back into anal sex jokes for a second.
Yeah,
and talk about what's going to happen to this guy.
or we could not. But I think everyone understands what you're probably alluding to. We've all watched the show Oz.
As the I noticed too when he's led into the prison, it's actually Stonegate. It's not Arkham.
Yeah,
and they have a different angle on Stonegate. Stonegate or Blackgate?
Stonegate, I believe. It was
Stonegate.
in the last episode, but I think it's Stonegate.
Yeah. We mentioned it because they always have the same establishing shot. It looks like a giant ship. And this one, it's a different shot completely. It does not look like a ship, but it doesn't look as good either.
No, it didn't really read to me at first either. Yeah, I was kind of looking at it going like, oh yeah, I guess that's sure. But, that's actually interesting too, because that means it's clear that they are making a delineation between for lack of a better term, the crazy criminals and the regular criminals, which I don't think always happens. Arkham tends to be a catch-all for people in the Batman world, where it's like anybody who gets arrested by Batman ends up in Arkham.
Yeah, it's a good point. So in my book, I have Arkham is permeated by the elites, and there's just corruption throughout. So they end up liquidating Arkham to do renovations and to just really look everything over and figure out how to reconfigure the prison to make it work again. And I needed a new place to put all these super criminals. So I was trying to think of a new name for like a new Arkham, and I couldn't come up with anything better than
New Arkham. Yeah.
And I ran out of space to even talk about it. So you just have a scene where they're walking into a newish facility, and there's a new Arkham thing in the background. It doesn't really matter. I think the reader gets the idea.
Arkham,
but I totally forgot about Stonegate and how I probably could have just thrown him in there or something like that. Do like a new wing in Stonegate.
Yeah, well, given what happens after that, it probably makes sense that they are where they are.
That's true, yeah.
Without giving anything away.
No. What did you think of the guy that did the voice acting for Sid the Squid?
Oh, I thought he was good. I like that guy. That's Matt Frewer, right?
Yeah, Matt Frewer from Max Headroom.
Max Headroom, yep. He was. He shows up in stuff all the time. He was in the remake of Dawn of the Dead. He was great in that. He's been on Star Trek a bunch of times, I think.
Yep, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yep.
He was the neighbor.
Yep.
Yeah, one of my favorite TNG episodes has him as this guy, this con artist from the future who's not really from the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, it had a really great one-liner. I remember, I know this isn't a Star Trek podcast, but it had the best line from Data in the entire series. Data goes, I assume the door panel will open with your fingerprint, whether you are conscious or not. Because he needs to get out of the shuttlecraft.
Yeah.
I guess without context, that joke might not make sense.
I assume it means that he's going to knock him out if he has to.
Exactly. Yeah. That's Data's polite way of saying, I'm going to kick your ass.
Yeah. I thought he was good. I can't remember if there was another I guess there was a couple other people in the cast whose name I recognized, but of course now I don't remember what they are. Let me look them up real quick.
Oh, Robert Picardo is...
Yep, that's right. Another Star Trek actor. John Vernon, of course, playing Rupert Thorne. And I was looking it up, and I finally saw what the guy who plays Bullock looks like, and I was like, oh my God, it's that guy. Of course it's that guy. He's the only guy who sounds like that, and he's in like a bunch of different... He's the guy in Total Recall who's Arnold's buddy at the beginning, on the construction site or whatever. Never put that together in a million years.
Oh yeah, man. He was in City Slickers.
Mm-hmm.
More that I can't even think of right now, but... yeah, I love his voice.
Yeah,
I wish he could. He looks like Harvey Bullock too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, he's definitely living the gimmick, as they say. Second episode where Batman pulls the throwing the shuriken into the gun barrel thing.
Yeah,
I wonder if that was the same animation. Do you think they used it twice to save money?
No, because this one looked a lot better.
It did. And again, I not to completely. Be overly complimentary to Paul Dini, because there are other people who work on this show, obviously, who are great writers and great directors. But he pulls out these little character things that are just so perfect, whether it's the Joker, saying the line about without the Batman crime is no punchline, or in this one, when after Batman throws the shuriken into the gun barrel, he punches Rupert Thorne in the face and he says, "That's for pulling a gun on me." Which is such a great little Batman line. And then he punches him a few more times for other stuff. But like that,
and his final punch is, and that's for anything I might have forgotten.
Yes, yeah. But just Batman punching him and being offended that the guy pulled a gun on him is amazing. That's like a great piece of little piece of character.
It's a great shot too, because this is the first reveal of Batman being alive, and he's doing this power walk towards the camera, and as he's walking, he just throws the shuriken without. It's effortless, basically.
Yeah.
And really well animated, and it's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, as circling back just briefly to Batman's questionable strategy, at the beginning of the episode when they've got Sid the Squid is up on the roof, and then the other three guys are creeping around with flashlights down by on the docks and stuff. Batman shows up to beat up Sid the Squid, essentially only because he's making shadow puppets, because he's not doing anything, he's just hanging around. And then Batman looks over, sees the other guys there, and continues to chase after Sid the Squid. Like, he sees the guys who are actually doing the crime, and he chooses not to go after those guys.
I thought that maybe the tactic was take care of the lookout and then take care of the bad guys. But you're right. Batman should look at this guy quickly and go, not a threat, and immediately move on to the henchman.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of was that he specifically is going after Sid to try and find out who is the person behind all of this. So maybe he's going after him because he thinks he's the weak link and can probably get the info out of him.
Right.
But he is actively letting a crime happen while he does this.
Yeah. And when Sid is hanging off the building and Batman's trying to help him up, there's a brick that gives away, and Sid is squirming so much. Batman says, like, stand still, like, I can't help you if you don't stop moving or whatever. But Batman is very flustered by this guy just grabbing at him.
And then he tells him to let go. He's no, seriously.
Does he?
Yeah, he's just scrambling, and then the thing breaks, and he's holding on to him. And then at a certain point, Batman goes, "Let go." So he was going to let that dude die.
Like, you don't imagine Batman fumbling around very often, and that is a good example of him fumbling around, and he's just like, I just need to hit reset. This is not going the way I imagined at all.
Yeah.
I saw these finger puppets. I didn't know what to think.
Yeah. If you run...
Shadow puppets, rather.
Yeah. If you run this episode, the next episode, and I Am the Night back to back to back, you have a trilogy of, like, depressed Batman kind of being a dick. Like, you can kind of read into it that he's just really exasperated with everything and is just not really taking his job that seriously anymore.
Yeah. You know, it's got to get to you after a while. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's about it for this one, unless you have anything else you want to talk about.
No, that's it for me. I'm trying to think of something I want to draw, and I didn't really have a good answer on this one.
It's not really a flashy episode. I would probably go with the Joker throne room scene, the first shot of the Joker where he's sitting in the shadows.
Yeah, that's
with
a good
the
one.
hyenas at his feet. That whole scene is like really, very lit, very moody, and it's fun. I like that stuff.
Yeah. So, I found that the responses that we're getting from these podcasts, people have reached out to me and said they love when we talk about things we don't want to draw.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that instead of like, what do you want to draw? If you have an answer for what don't you want to draw,
sure,
that's probably just as interesting to people.
I would think so, yeah. What don't you want to draw in this episode?
Well, I was going to say a jewelry store.
Okay. I can see that.
But like, at first you think it's like a casino or like the trouble of drawing anything that has a lot of detail. But I think with casinos and drawing signage and things that has to be measured correctly, that could be really time consuming. Mm-hmm. But if you have like a quick doodly way of drawing small diamonds, and because jewelry can kind of be any shape and design, whatever you want. I don't think a jewelry store would be that hard to draw. I think maybe throwing a few pieces in the foreground, like really measure out the diamonds and make it look good. And then as you get way back in the display cases, you're just drawing gobbledygook. But it reads as jewelry.
Everything's a necklace.
Basically. Or earrings, or, like those, you have like mannequins wearing things or whatever. I think that I've never tried to draw a jewelry store before, but I wouldn't mind trying it.
Yeah, that's another one where it's kind of like, I feel like you kind of have to make a decision about what you want a jewelry store to look like that is not necessarily what they actually look like. Because when I think of jewelry store, I don't think of a lot of stuff like hanging on the walls as much as you have, or, up as much as you would have it in the display cases that are kind of like down.
Right.
So depending on what kind of angle you're picking, it might actually be kind of difficult to make it read as a jewelry store unless you've got vertical display cases with stuff in it,
Right. And the light source might be coming from the display cases themselves.
Yeah.
Which means your characters are going to be bottom lit, which is very different than top lit, obviously.
Right.
Like a lot of artists, like you have like a quick set of shadows in your head you can throw on any face if the light is above the face, but throwing the light below it kind of most artists will like have to stop and think like, all right, wait, does the shadow go on top of the nose?
Yeah.
How do you see the eyes? You have to kind of like, because it's just not something that you're used to doing.
Yeah, that's why I have one of my bookmarks at the top of my browser page is a blogspot blog called Zaffino Magnum Opus. And so I click that and I have everything he ever drew at my fingertips. And I just scroll through because that dude was a master of low angle light. Like the way that he throws a shadow off the nose upwards over the eye is just like, it makes me want to stop drawing. It's so good. So I rip that stuff off all the time.
Yeah, no, Zafino. So I have a pile of books next to my drawing table that it's kind of moving around, but it's like I have a bunch of references in shelves. But if you're next to my desk in a pile, that means I use your book a lot.
Yeah.
And right now I have Mignola's Dracula.
Ooh,
I've got two Zafinos. I have Adam Hughes. What did he draw? Some Archie comic, I think, and then Jazz Maynard. And I have my own Batman stuff only because I need to constantly open it up and see how I drew certain outfits and stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you how do you handle that generally? If you've got a costume design that's very specific, right? Do you hang up like your own turnarounds or something? Because I've found that when I do that stuff, I forget what that shit looks like all the time, and I'm the person who created it. Like when I was doing Redline, I had these mech suits that I had to design, and they were like wonky enough that I could never really remember exactly how the geometry of them worked. So I constantly was pulling up the pictures and being like, how does this go? Okay, yeah, I had this thing on the back. Or like, do you stick to your initial turnaround, or do you ever let it like evolve? You know what I mean? Like, if the more you draw it, it's like, oh well, it started out with this kind of thing happening on the shoulder, but the more I've done it, the easier it is to kind of like blend that into this piece, so it kind of evolves a little bit.
Yeah, short answer, I do not do turnarounds. What I don't have time.
Sure.
With writing and drawing, usually I'll have an introduction panel to the character, and I'll make it a splashy panel, and so you can really see what that character is wearing. And that is where I put my energy as far as like making sure Nightwing looks, really good.
Right.
But then, as I draw him from the back, I'm like, okay, wait, I haven't designed the back of him, so make the back look good. And normally it gets me what I need.
That's all you need. Yeah. Just make the butt look good.
But then I'll start streamlining things and start getting better at it. So, for example, the first time I draw the Asbat costume, it looks fine. But like the shoulder pads are a bit...
There was one thing missing from it the first time you drew it. Now it looks fine.
Yeah, side note, Clay was insisting on putting on those sweet 90s pouches all over him. And I was
just on the leg.
So, yeah, those are on there. But I originally drew Azrael as having these like sort of rounded shoulder pads. And as I started to draw him more and more and like move him around in space and put him in fight scenes, I realized that he works way better if you make his shoulder pads pointier, flatter, and more blade-like. And the way I've handled Azrael, sorry, this is getting long, is every part of him is usually very well shaded, so it's kind of vague on how he looks, but that's the design. But the things that I am focused on with him is making little bits of him very blade-like and very pointy. So I honestly, like, I feel bad for the guy that's ever going to have to sculpt a 3D model of my Azrael because it just like changes every panel, but it's kind of supposed to be that way. But other characters like the GTO outfits are very specific. The stripes go here, the badge goes there.
Right.
But even then, like, I'll forget what my own goddamn gloves look like, and I designed them. So I hear what you're saying. Yeah,
those little details can get lost really quickly once you throw it down, because you end up. I always end up doing something like I spend time designing, like, okay, these gloves are going to be like fingerless gloves with the knuckle things, and they're going to have like these stripes going down the sides that are going to wrap around, and you're going to have like the ribbing on the palms. And then, like, after drawing them 3 times, you don't have time to do that shit. You just do, okay, his hand is closed here. Okay, yeah, fingerless gloves, close enough. It's open here. I forgot to do the things on the hand. Whatever, nobody can. It just it ends up evolving.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, you asked me once about you asked me this question before, and I told you that when I design costumes, I try to design them very clean and not a lot of detail on them, because I find that with my art, my scribbles become the detail.
Right.
So I don't have a Chris Nolan style Batman SWAT team arm or chest plate.
Right.
Because I just draw him with tights, like just traditional animated series style. But instead of drawing pop rivets and seams and Kevlar like you'd see in the movie, I just shade his pecs and his abs and his obliques, and that becomes the armor, if that makes sense. If I design really crazy, complicated costumes, it would be too much, because my line work is already complicated. So I try to go simple on the designs, very basic shapes, and because I know it's just going to get complicated through my rendering.
Yeah. The number one thing that I hate the most is designing something from one angle and then having to turn it and realize that the design doesn't make any sense. Like, again, with that mech suit that I had to design, I designed this helmet, and I was like, it looks really cool from the side or from like a 3/4 angle or something like that, because that's when you're going to see all the crap on it and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I the first time I had to draw it head on, I was like, oh my God, I don't even know how this would work. I don't even know what this would look like. The same with like shoulder pads and stuff. If you've got like, armored shoulder pads, they look great until the first time you have to have your character move their arms up. And then you have to figure out how those things sit on the body from a different angle.
Right. The classic example is Wolverine's boots, Wolverine's mask.
Yes.
Because it looks good if he's facing the camera, but it maybe if he turns sideways, but it gets really hard to know what the hell you're supposed to do with the boots and the head, I don't know what you call them, the flares on his eyes as he moves around in space. And it's interesting seeing artists take like different approaches. I think honestly, it doesn't work from every angle, and you have to sort of move around the flares depending on where the camera is, just sort of take some creative license just to make it work panel to panel,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I think that's about it for this one.
Yeah,
what would you rate this one?
I'm gonna go 4, like a high 4.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna go 4. I think I take a couple points off because it does feel similar to that other Joker episode, but they're both so good that it's almost negligible. It's not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call this one like an all-timer. Like, it doesn't feel like a Heart of Ice or anything like that, but I think it's a very good episode and definitely the best Joker episode.
Yeah, this does what Paul Dini does best. I feel like Paul's great with short stories, cutting the fat. Every bit of dialogue, every camera angle, every shot, every action is absolutely necessary to move the story forward. And there's very little room for error. And I think he's really good at these short story style, storytelling.
Yeah. Now we'll see how good he is once he writes one that actually has Batman in it.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we will be back with Mudslide. Okay, Mudslide. Story by Alan Burnett, teleplay by Steve Perry, directed by Eric Radomski. And in this one, Clayface is falling apart, literally. His clay-like body is disintegrating. Fortunately, a scientist he knew from his movie star days is working on a remedy. However, Hagen is forced to steal money to pay for the expensive components of the remedy. That is, until one of his targets is Wayne Biomedical Labs. That could have been written better, I think. That was not the most well-written of anything. Basically, yeah, Clayface is falling apart, and he's stealing money to try and fix it, but then there's this chemical that he finds out that if he injects himself with it, he'll be able to keep his consistency together, and he steals it from Wayne Labs. And then, okay, so following up on what I said about the last one, about Batman's strategy being questionable and him being kind of a dick, so Clayface steals the stuff, and he's going to be injected with it, and it's going to allow him to regain the structural integrity of his body. Batman shows up. Clayface isn't like, it's not like he's trying to regain the structural integrity of his body so he can run for president and rule the country or something, or anything more insidious than that. Yeah. He just wants to not melt and dissipate into nothingness. Batman
shuts it off.
Yeah, Batman just shows up and he just pulls the plug. What a dick!
Yeah, yeah. They could have had a more villainous reason for why he was.
It's the same shit that Batman earlier in the episode was like, "I offered you the chance to take that chemical, but you said no." And so now that he steals it, he's got to be a dickhead about it and stop him from becoming a person again?
Or maybe Batman could know that the chemicals he's injecting himself with are not safe and it's not going to help him, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Know? Something that doesn't make Batman just look like a dickhead.
As he tends to do from time to time. I tell you, though, I really love the animation in this one.
Oh, yeah. No, it's great.
I mean, I feel like they use the same company that did the part 2 of Feet of Clay.
Yeah.
Clayface is melting the whole time. There's bits of him flying off. I mean, he jumps out a window and he hits the ground, and they draw like circular ripples in the clay, and that shit can't be easy to animate.
Yeah.
And then at one point, Batman's fighting him in the subway, and he kicks him from behind, and Clayface slides towards the door, hits it with his head. But then suddenly his head and his ass reverse ends because he's made of clay. Yep. And he gets up, and
like the T-1000.
It's really great. Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of T-1000 in here.
Yeah, that stuff is, I think, my favorite bit. Well, I have 2 favorite Clayface bits. The first one is in the subway when he's melting as the woman, and then like just starts going from the woman, then melting into this like weird goop monster, and like his head is sticking to the door when he's moving and stuff. That was awesome. That was great.
His head is like leaning against the glass, all depressed, but his neck is now 4 feet long.
Yeah,
because he has to go from the shape of this woman into Clayface, who's got like his legs are a foot tall, and the rest of his body is 12 feet tall.
Yeah, that stuff was great. And my other favorite scene was when he swallows Batman, and Batman is trying to fight his way out from inside.
Yeah.
That stuff was great. My favorite part of the episode is when he's like, trying to kill Batman, and then all of a sudden he just goes, "Wait a minute," and then boom, he shoots the grappling hook up through his head from the inside. That shit was awesome.
Yeah, he's inside, and Batman's head is poking out of his chest. So Clayface grabs the head and shoves it back in, and then like little lumps of him, and all this time's happening. Batman's not breathing, and Clayface is, I can hear his heartbeat starting to slow down. Almost time. And suddenly he's like, "Wait a minute!" Boom, and his face explodes in the bat. So he must have felt Batman move towards his buckle, pull something out, and be like, "Oh, that can't be good."
Yeah. No, it's great. The animation for Clayface is fantastic as usual. The story is actually pretty nice too. It's another one where it's like, Batman is in it more than he was in the last one, but it's very much Clayface's story.
Right.
And they maintain Clayface as a fairly empathetic villain.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is weird because he's kind of an asshole.
Oh yeah, big time.
He shits all over the people that want to help him. Mm-hmm. When you're introduced to him, his like stand-in is trying to help him the whole time, who's this really sweet guy, and Clayface is just telling him to fuck off the whole time. Batman's there, always like, "Hey, if you need help, my offer still stands." And then you've got this woman who's obsessed with Matt Hagen movies. She's just watching rom-coms while his body dries. Yeah, Alfred, apparently a big Matt Hagen fan.
Yep. Haganites, they call them.
Yeah, that's nice. But I like the one-way romance from this woman. And she's watching a movie where Hagen says, like, "Oh, you didn't just save my life, you saved my heart," or something like that. And then Clayface literally says that line to her the next 2 minutes later, and she totally buys it hook, line, sinker.
Yeah,
She's got this, like, she's the scientist who's also sort of in love with the idea of Matt Hagen, and he's sort of allowing her to help him while he's giving her this fake romance. But he's not even, like, creative enough. I mean, he's not even real in his affection for her. He's just sort of using her.
Yeah, it's nice because he's empathetic, but that doesn't mean he's not still a dickhead and still an asshole.
Yeah.
Kind of like the way that they were going. They're a little bit more successful here with Clayface than they were with Penguin in that Penguin episode we were talking about, where Penguin is empathetic to a point. I don't think he's that empathetic. You thought he was a little bit more empathetic than I did. But in this one, I feel like they really ride the line pretty well of Matt Hagen being an empathetic villain, but also maintaining he's not a good guy.
Yeah. The reason that Clayface is empathetic, and it's similar to Mr. Freeze, is these guys don't want to be villains.
Sure.
They don't want to be criminals. They were victims of an accident, and now they're stuck, and they need to commit crimes for some reason to get out. Mm-hmm. So that already makes them empathetic. And in each case, you have people around them that care deeply about them. Nora obviously cares deeply about Victor. He cares deeply about her.
Yep.
And with Matt Hagen, you have his stand-in from the first 2 episodes, and then you have this woman. So even though he's an asshole and he's pushing people away, there's just so much tragedy around them that you can't help but feel bad for them because they did not ask to be put into this situation.
Yeah. If bad stuff happens to a jerk, it's still bad stuff.
Yeah.
But you're right. That seems to be would you say that is a running theme among Batman villains? Because it feels like a lot of them they're either just assholes, like the Riddler. The Riddler is just a smug prick.
Yeah.
The Joker is just kind of a shitty person, full stop. But
well, hold on, but Harley loves him, and she has redeemable qualities, and
sure.
she actually puts a brighter light, puts a kinder spin on Joker from time to time.
Yeah, I guess
not in the same way as Clayface and Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, he's still a shitty person.
Yeah, maybe I'll redact that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about though, and you can read more about that in Batman: Curse of the White Knight. But yeah, Mr. Freeze very much is a victim of circumstance. He is probably the most empathetic because he's not even a bad dude. He just was, he got screwed and he ended up in this really unfortunate situation. But yeah, Hagen he's not a super criminal. He's just a jerk who was trying to not age and get old. And he ended up as a giant mud monster.
Right.
And I think it definitely helps.
Most of the other the classic villains that you talked about, like Penguin wants to be a villain, Joker wants to be a villain, Two-Face had redeeming qualities. Like I think Two-Face falls into the empathetic from time to time because
definitely
the Two-Face side has taken over Harvey Dent or whatever. But yeah, I think I always prefer villains that have some redeeming quality that makes you kind of like them, even though they're still mostly evil. Yeah,
I think that's always going to be a more interesting character because otherwise you just have like a mustache twirling villain, and there's no fun in that.
Honestly, like a good Riddler story, instead of doing the same episode twice, they should have done a reason like why he's so obsessed with puzzles, like what happened to him. It's me, I like father-son drama. So for me, his father used to beat him or lock him in a box and he had to figure out his way out of the box, whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah. Or
but if you showed like a softer side of Riddler and why he is this way, it might make him
even I don't so much need a why is the Riddler the way he is kind of thing, but they could have gone some a similar direction to the Penguin thing. And what if they had, we probably should have talked about this in the Riddler episode, but what if they have Riddler getting out of jail, right? And so he is now has to restart his life in the private sector, and he ends up working like a shitty job, and he's constantly thinking that he's being beat down by his boss, who is just some asshole. And it's a job he can't quit because then if he quits it, it'll break his parole or something like that. Right. He's constantly surrounded by people he's smarter than. And then these things start happening, and Batman immediately blames him for it because they seem very Riddler-y, that kind of thing, where you get into his personality a little bit and how he would respond to these things instead of just being like, now I have an even more futuristic game to trap you in.
Yeah, you're right. Honestly, I think any 80-year-old villain of Batman could give him a fresh coat of paint. Yeah. If you just do like a twist in their origin that makes them more empathetic. I think that's all you need.
Similar to Clayface, who in the comics, there has been like 6 of them. Did you know this?
Yeah, we talked about that the first time.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that until I look up Clayface, and there's like, there's 6 different Clayfaces, and they all have weird names. But in this one, actually, he's fairly similar to Clayface 3, who had his deal was he injected himself with some of the original Clayface's DNA for some reason that I can't remember, and it ends up basically melting him from the inside. So he has to wear a containment suit to keep his body from just like melting away. So, which is more or less what happens in this one. The only difference being Clayface 3's thing was that if he touched people with his mud hands, he would melt them. And
that's wow.
Yeah, and part of his thing was he had to melt people in order to survive. So if he was basically like a vampire, a melt vampire. Which
Jesus Christ,
yeah, which is like
that's dark.
Yeah, it's like a reverse vampire where instead of sucking blood, he's just spewing goop on people.
Right.
And he looked a lot like he had a big cape on. He was very very Vincent Price-esque looking. It's a weird looking character. Not the best character design. He's got this like Mr. Freeze type glass dome. Then he's got this big sort of gothic looking cape to look like the Vincent Price kind of look. And then he's wearing this like do you remember the Super Friends toys, the original line of Super Friends toys? Remember the way Mr. Freeze looked, where he had that like big bulky costume on with like the piping and stuff on it?
Yeah.
He looks like that. So if you've got that body with like a glass bowl full of goop wearing a cape, it's not the most it's not the sleekest character design I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm not even liking your description, if I'm honest. Yeah, it's hard to I wouldn't want to see that version. I mean, that version doesn't sound very empathetic. If he's literally melting people to survive, even if it's not his fault, it still doesn't sound very empathetic.
Yeah, they seem to have taken bits and pieces from the different Clayfaces along the years and turned them into the Matt Hagen version.
Yeah. One thing I was going to mention with this is the end. I love the end. Very dramatic. They're at a laboratory by the side of the ocean, big cliff, and the music in this episode is great.
Yeah.
And the final musical swell happens as Batman and Clayface are both falling, and Batman catches himself on a rock or something, and he tries to help Clayface, and Clayface, he's absorbing water, so he's starting to melt more and more, and he says something like curtains, time to close the curtains or whatever, some dramatic thing, and he hits the water and he dissolves. And I love the storytelling here because he dissolves and you see him from under the surface, and you see the cloud of clay spread out, and then from the top of the surface you see the shape of a man under the water, and then the man disperses, and then the camera goes up the cliff to the clouds, and I think there's a cloud that looks like Clayface.
Oh really? Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's really quick. It's kind of hard to see, but as far as I know, this episode is telling us that Clayface is fucking dead.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Which, ironically, we talk a lot about how, because Batman can't kill, a lot of characters hit the water when they're falling out of things. And this is an example of a character hitting the water and just dying.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty dark. It's a really bleak, intense ending. And it's, I'd say it's probably one of the best endings I think that they've done so far.
Yeah, it's very adult. Like, I'm surprised they got away with this ending, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's, I'm sure if someone asked them about it, they're like, well, he's a giant mud monster. He can pull himself back together. Oh yeah. Right. Speaking of Batman being a dick again, he tackles, or I can't remember if Clayface tackles him, and they're falling off the cliff, and Batman's hanging there with Clayface, strapped to his leg, holding on for dear life, and Batman says, "Come on, Hagen, pull yourself together." What an ass! This is only happening because of him.
It's good advice, though. I mean, he didn't bring Clayface out into the rain. I think Clayface attacked him because that squeaky rubber suit wasn't quite doing the job, and he just busted out and started attacking Batman.
Yeah, but all that only happened because Batman shut the machine down.
You're right. He should have just let it play out.
Yeah. Batman wanted for murder as far as I'm concerned.
Also, Batman has like a few sentences to describe how he figured the mystery out here. Before this scene, he's with Alfred. Alfred mentions Matt Hagen's movies, and Batman goes, "Eureka, that's it," and walks out.
Yep.
And next thing you see is Batman turning the power off, and he's figured everything out. And the explanation is that Batman went through his movies, looked through the credits, found out who Clayface was hanging out with, who had medical degree, and then there was some more logic, I guess, shoved in there, and voila, here I am, and I'm turning the machine off.
Batman solved this problem by literally going to imdb.com. And clicking show full cast and crew on all of the Matt Hagen movies.
Do you think that Hagen really cared for this woman?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think so. like I said, as empathetic as he is, he's still a very vain person, and the only thing that he cares about is getting back into the shape he was. Even once he goes into that suit that this woman has created for him in order to slow down him turning into this, puddle of goop. He gets like pissed off at her, and he's like, "I can't deal with this suit anymore." It's like, dude, she's basically.
But then he apologizes and recites his movie to her.
Yeah, It's all manipulation on his part.
Right.
Excuse me. They were really going overboard with the movie-based puns in this one, though, because her name is Stella Bates, and they make a reference to her owning a motel, and then she sold the money to like go to doctor school or something.
And twice he yells, "Stella!"
Yep.
Yeah,
so
that kind of took me out of it.
They really went for it. I think, that's honestly, if I was writing this show, if I was writing a kid show, that's the kind of shit that I would be writing too, just because you got to keep it fun for yourself, and all that stuff is going to go over the heads of the kids anyway. But
Alan Burnett, he wrote this one, right?
This one was yes.
Yeah. I think he and Dini are my favorite favorite writers. Even as a kid, I always knew that their names came up more often than not on the episodes I really liked.
Yeah. This is I think this is let's get it. Well, let's do what would you draw, or what would you not want to draw?
All right, do you have one?
I think I've got two. I've got one I was just thinking of now. I definitely would want to draw the Batman or the Clayface swallowing Batman busting out of Clayface sequence, because I think that would be a lot of fun to sink your teeth into, as far as how you break the panels up. You could do some cool stuff, or just drawing Batman. Like there's even one shot where Batman like is trying to bust out of his chest like an alien chest burster, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That would be a lot of fun. The other thing I was thinking is, I think I would take it. I think I would revamp the suit a little bit, because it's weird that it just like turns him into this, loaf of bread essentially. That
I had the same thought. I hate the design of that suit, and I was listening to this episode with headphones on, so I could hear everything. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it was clear with the way you heard it, but every time he moves, there's like this squeaky sound of like rubbing together and his inner joints, and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
I don't think I
noticed
noticed that.
I thought it was just hilarious, and the way that the suit makes his face he looks like some like 1950s invader from Mars alien, something really not designed very well.
Yeah, he looks like I don't know if it's intentional, maybe it is, but he looks like an Oscar statue come to life.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's supposed to be another,
for a daytime Emmy or whatever.
Yeah, he looks like a daytime Emmy. I think it's one of those things where it's like there's such a thing as what's the word I'm looking for? Too minimal as far as design goes. Like remember Catwoman when they turned her into the actual Catwoman? It looked really, there's certain you can only do a certain level of texturing in cartoons, so some stuff gets lost, and I think this was one where they could have taken a different swing at it. I don't know, but
yeah. I mean, I like the lab itself. It was like a Frank Lloyd Wright style lab. I like the machine he lays in that presses him back into a human shape.
Yes, yeah, that was very 30s,
like a cookie cutter type thing. Or
did
whatever.
Did you ever see? Terminator 2 came out. This was back when they used to make toys for kids based on rated R movies, and they had this.
Oh, I remember. I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, they had this set that was this play set that was supposed to be like the Skynet Terminator creation facility, where you would take a endoskeleton, place it inside this mold, and then pour this like gross, viscous like liquid latex or something on it to create the skin around it, and it was super gross. It was one of those toys that I asked my parents for endlessly, and then I finally got it, and I used it once, I think. It was pretty gross and weird.
Yeah, you pull it out. Was it like flesh colored?
Yes, it was, yeah.
So you had a flesh-colored T-1000 in the shape of Robert Patrick, and inside was a sweet T-1000, T1 or whatever model. Mm-hmm. So you would peel it away. I mean, I would imagine that thing would smell like ass.
Yes.
as it came out.
Yeah. Yeah, the gimmick was that it was supposed to be like, oh, you could do battle damage, and every time you hit it, it exposed a piece of the endoskeleton. Which, when they talk about that in the commercials, sounds awesome. But then when you get it, you realize because it needs to go into this mold, the endoskeleton can't move. Like it's just a solid. It doesn't have any joints, so you can't do anything with it other than have it stand there like a weirdo.
Right.
And it was not the. It was a good idea. But the execution left something to be desired.
Yeah. I think the best, going through in my memory, the best toys that were sort of like the feature was they could get destroyed in some way. Yeah. The ones that stand out in my mind are He-Man with the chest plate.
Yep.
That if you flicked it, it would get like 3 sets of damages.
Yep.
Then there were the crash test dummies, action figures. Yeah. They had giant buttons on their chest where if you hit the button, they would literally shoot their arms and legs off.
Yeah, I took those toys to their limit, let me tell you, because as soon as I was like, you're supposed to destroy these, huh?
I did too, man. I don't think they were play tested because I often broke them more just from blasting the plastic than I actually did hitting the actual button on their chest.
Yeah. I had 2 of the dummies, and I had the car, which crumpled up like it had crumpling damage when you smashed it into something. And I as soon as I got that, I was like, "This is I think this should probably be sent off the top step of my house, which is about 20 feet in the air."
Who saw the toy potential with those crash test dummy commercials
I don't
they used
know.
to have like that? But I bought them too.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just someone's like, you know what? This isn't going to last long. But there are no toys that are designed to be exploded like this.
I'll tell
Trust
you.
me, the kids are going to buy them.
I had a great time with those toys. I thought they were a lot of fun, specifically because you could destroy them and put them back together again.
Yeah, I liked them too, man. And the car one was cool because they had a rubber front end, which would accordion, but it would easily straighten itself back out too, which was smart.
Yeah, very cool.
The other battle damage toy was Jurassic Park. The T-Rex had like flesh that would come off on one part of its shoulder blade, and that was it.
Because you only get one hit in on the T-Rex, and then you're done.
Yeah, exactly.
And I still have I had the Enterprise D from Generations that has the photon torpedo damage on the top. There's spring-loaded plates, so you can hit a button and the thing flies off, and there's like an explosion underneath, and it makes a sound as though it got hit by a bomb.
Oh, that's cool. I forgot about that one.
It's pretty
Are
cool.
there any other ones that were missing?
What's that?
Are there any other ones that were missing?
Oh, I'm sure there is. Yeah.
What about the slime? No, you pour slime on something. There's a green gook that you would pour over somebody. What toy was that?
The Ghostbusters toys came with slime.
Okay, maybe that was it.
Yeah. A lot of toys came with goop.
I hated those toys, man. Like I tried to keep my shit clean. I hated playing with toys in sandboxes because I wanted to make sure it didn't get wrecked. So I hated all that stuff. Why?
Anyway, what would you draw?
Maybe I like the rain scene at the end when he's hanging off the cliff and stuff. And I'm a big fan of drawing rain because as I was watching it, I thought, you know what? I think for the finale of Curse of the White Knight, I'm going to have it all take place in the rain because I miss drawing rain. I haven't got to do the texture for a while, so I'd rather draw the texture myself than let the colorist go and do all that stuff for me. I think that's kind of a cheat.
Can you send some notes to Hollingsworth for when Batman battles Azrael? There's a very specific look for Batman when he's lit by fire.
Oh, yeah. I'll send him some screenshots.
Please do.
If it's Batman Azrael and there's rain everywhere and it's dark and there's a fire, I don't see why that can't happen. But I'm going to take his pouches off first just to fuck with you. Well,
they'll already have been on at that point, so the damage is done.
I know. Yeah, I already ruined them. It's too late for me to change anything. They're already colored.
Yeah, they've already gone. They're already iconic again.
Yep.
Anyway, so getting into this one as a rating, I'm going to give this one a very high 4. I wouldn't say it's a 5, but I think this is about as good as you can get without being a 5.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think.
Do you think this is better than the last one?
I think
to me they're very, very close.
Yeah, I think they are. I think they're very close. I think the last one probably overall has a better story. But this one has a bit more pathos. I think a lot of the heavy lifting for this one is done by the animation and the ending. I think the ending's fantastic. I think it's very hard to not appreciate that ending.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I like Feet of Clay as a whole better because I think origin stories are always fun. There's more going on. This one's pretty straightforward. But considering they jam it all in one episode...
when you said last one, did you mean last Clayface or the last episode, like the Joker episode?
Well, both.
Okay,
so, yeah,
sure.
At one point I was comparing this and Sid the Squid, which I think they're about the same grade for me.
Sure.
But I was also sort of asking, like, do I like this episode better than Feet of Clay?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I like Feet of Clay better because there's just more going on there. And I'm guessing I gave Feet of Clay at least a 4. So, yeah, I'm definitely going 4 on this one.
Yeah.
Just because of the ending. I mean, the fact that they kind of killed him off. And I think the only reason they got away with it is because Clayface is not a human shape. I think standards and practices would have come down on them if you had a human body hitting the water and just disappearing. Yeah, but because Clayface is kind of vague what his molecular biology is, they can easily explain it away and say, oh, no, he's coming back. But they basically killed him. And I challenge you should definitely go back and look at the last few frames before they roll the credits, because I'm pretty sure Clayface's face is in the sky, which to me means he's dead because he's in heaven or hell.
What the hell's what the hell's the name of the king lion in Lion King?
Simba.
Not Simba.
Yeah, shit, his dad, James Earl Jones.
Yeah. Mustafa, right?
Mustafa.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's like Mustafa's face in the clouds in The Lion King.
Well, that episode of The Simpsons where you have James Earl Jones doing all those characters in the sky.
Actually, not him.
What?
Yeah, that's someone doing it. That's I think it's like
an impression of James Earl Jones.
Yeah, I think it's Harry Shearer or one of those guys doing it. You know, there's a joke in there. Now we're going to go over talking about The Simpsons, but
let's do it.
There's a joke in that scene that I never got until much, much later, and it's not like the usual ones where it's just like an adult thing. When he shows up, he says, you must something Kimba. I mean Simba. And I never understood that before.
Kimba's a kind of steak, right?
No. Kimba, there's a whole backstory claiming that the Lion King is ripped off from this other cartoon.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And the name of the lion in the cartoon is Kimba. And there is like, you can go online, if you look up Kimba and the Lion King, there are like tons and tons of similarities. And
wow.
That was them taking a shot at the Lion King as ripping off this thing called Kimba the White Lion. It's a Japanese manga series.
Oh, wow. Oh, God. The Simpsons, man. Even if you didn't get the joke as a kid, I knew I was getting high-quality adult material.
Oh, 100%.
In the form of kid-friendly
like,
entertainment.
What other cartoon show are you going to find where they're making, like, Orson Welles jokes? You know, until like the Critic came out, there weren't a lot of cartoons doing Music Man riffs for an entire episode. You know.
Yeah, I remember I bought a book on Simpsons episodes or whatever. Maybe it was a gift, and they talked about the Easter eggs, and then they explained each one. And actually, as a kid, I was able to figure out so many references that I had like JFK references. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I was 8 when I saw that.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell was I going to get that?
Yeah.
Like some of the shit, I don't even think my parents understood.
Yeah, there's every now and then I'll see something and I'll go, oh, I finally get that Simpsons joke now. It still happens. There's so much stuff that they pulled from that it actually happened recently. I can't for the life of me remember what the hell it was, but it was one of those things where I was like, oh, I finally get that joke now.
Yeah, it happens to me too, man. We'll have to take a break and do a Simpsons or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
every now and
then. We'll take a break between seasons 2 and 3 and do all 25 seasons of The Simpsons.
I stopped watching at season 12, I think.
Yeah, that's where I think most people stopped. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for us for today. Next time we are going to be back with Paging the Crime Doctor and Zatanna. If you like the show, if you want to get in touch with us, you can do that on Twitter. Jeez. If you like the show,
got that?
If you like the show and you'd like to get in touch with us, you can do that through Twitter, where our Twitter name is @BATTASS Podcast, @BATTASS Podcast. Shoot us an email at badaasspodcast@gmail.com, BATTASSpodcast@gmail.com. If you like the show and you want to leave us a rating or review on iTunes, that would be amazing. Thank you so much. We have T-shirts, too. Did you know we have T-shirts?
No, I did not.
Yeah, we have. If you go to our Twitter page, the pinned tweet is a link to a T-shirt where you can get a sweet purple T-shirt with the Badass logo on it. If you want to, wear that to your next funeral or bris or something, just to show everybody how cool you are. And yeah,
isn't a bris when they like cut your dick off? Right? Wait, what's a bris? Isn't that like a circumcision or whatever?
Yes, it is. That's going to do it for us, I think. We'll be back. Thanks for coming by. We'll be back next time with Peyton.
Wait, seriously, what's a bris?
You got it on the second one. It's. I'll let you Google that one yourself and do the research. We won't have to waste any more time on that.
All right, then.
We'll see you next time
everybody.
with Paging the Doctor and Paging the Bris Doctor.